Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 16th of May, and we expected it. Reaching 100% from the ES standpoint was a given where we were with readings. We can see now, though, that we have them rising short interest, and people are thinking, potential profit taking, or that we may be approaching a peak moment. But from a NBI reading standpoint, we're still in a solid run. But it's close here, even when we look at the blue to potential crossover of gray. You're getting into that zone where you typically start to get a transfer. You're going to need to see this blue rise above the previous arc there in order to maintain this. Otherwise, you're going to have a divergence. And you'll see, like these other areas where it declines, you get your spill off that then breaks. So that becomes the pretty clean clue. We've got the rising gold on the shakeout, which, from a momentum standpoint, clear, and it can stay that way for some time. There's quite the spread between the shakeout yellow to magenta, and that all becomes pretty straightforward as far as watching it. And of course, NASDAQ breaking above that 100% on its way up there. And never forget that cyan on the DOC. Cyan under red is always buy, and it becomes pretty straightforward. The fact that you have a reset now of steel is significant because, we've waited a long time. I mean, go back all the way here. You can see we have not had a reset of short-term buyers in quite a number of months. So that's a significant change in the market. Then is starting to normalize in that understanding. Of course, treasuries are out of it because the Fed is clueless, has been since Donald Trump was elected. Even before he took office, they're completely confused as to what to do with this whole scenario. But the critical one right here, and this was really what's reflected in the numbers for inflation and everything else, taking the pressure off. And it'll be interesting to see if the drug price changing and that starts to come through, because that would free up quite a bit of money for individual consumers and change things as far as that dynamic goes, as far as consumption, which would be another huge net positive. So in my mind, economically, they're playing everything the right way. They just need to continue to drive oil down, making all the deals for investment into the U.S. and that's going to take more time, but the commitments nonetheless being there makes a huge difference. It really is going to put a lot of pressure on the EU setup, and I don't see anything positive from their view at this particular stage relative to where the U.S. is. So that's reality, and it also again was clear for gold that you had moved up, made quite the move. Now you've filled in positive extremes going all the way back to the beginning of the initial run up. And not surprising, unless you have some kind of global conflict situation that results in it. And at this particular stage, those tensions have eased dramatically around the world. Where are you looking for a hotspot other than in Ukraine? And that's going to be a question of is the EU going to continue to spike that? I would expect that Bitcoin will be able to hold up in these ranges, if not continue to make strides higher, particularly as economic data is improved. Same thing with ETH now, with this idea now that there's sort of the free reign to start the tokenization of everything. Let me expand the 50K here so we can get up in there close. So we had the brief move of the white NBI coming up to the top. Magenta dipped briefly, but made a bounce. So that's where you just had to move back to the 76. Once it peaked back above, where we're still congruent within that, and you just don't have enough short interest to make anything happen. And until that happens, though, you'll see that second spike, which will satisfy this, but that would just be a return to a 50%, but that's already become a much higher value. So from a bull standpoint, all rosy. We're seeing in the pre-market right now, late time push here prior to the open. Several more hours to go before the open, but if we look at it from yesterday action in the early 5-minute chart, that was all pretty much rosy from that. And so you'll get option expiration within this, and everyone will be starting to set up for next week's play. Really good stuff. I think all pretty much clear, and I think that shock for economists who really so wrong, but When haven't they been? I mean, it's been for years. We've talked about that. So uh, their models just don't accurately reflect how the dynamics of things work. And instead of changing their models, they keep giving bad answers and then making up excuses after the fact. And that's not an effective way to do things. You know, we see plenty of times where there's a divergent setup, and even though we know economics, whatever, they're going the wrong direction, we can see the lack of it, but that doesn't change the fact that we can follow what it does and know that we're going to get a correction that will satisfy it to the proper return when the proper signals come in. Um, they just have to really redefine what their economic models are and their understanding of behavior. And really, that's what economics comes down to. It's the behavior of people and what they do in certain situations as far as fear goes and how that behavior impacts things. And until they update with that, you're going to have these way despicable, actually, I would call it, predictions of things that have no basis in reality or behavioral sciences. That's just my opinion on it, but we'll continue to follow the readings as they are. As always, though, anything relevant, I'll put on our team chat and we'll go from there. Have a good one. Trade well.